But I want to use the last 4 minutes to tell you one more tool. The growth board. This is one of the most helpful tools I have for my projects that helps me get into this mode of experimenting but still having an overview. So exactly what I need in the digital age. And it's about making it small, very small, and it has to do with the complexity science. In complexity science, we say that most tasks have a life cycle. They start complicated until you work on that. You have to analyze, you break them down, and then they get simple. When you have them in the simple stage, it's great to have some lean SOPs, checklists, and whatever helps there. But they won't stay simple very long, because on a specific point, that product will get commoditized. So where you have now one competitor, there will be 7 competitors that do what you do for the price you can have. So in that point, this business is going to die. And this task is going into chaotic environment. Chaotic means it's dying and it's going apart and it will reorganize in some other way. But you don't know how the single parts are going to reorganize. And this is the complex environment. You don't know how it's going to be, and if you change one part, because they are interdependent, the other part will also change. And this is the complexity task. So for the complicated task, project management, wonderful. For the simple task, checklists, standard operating procedures, Lean, Six Sigma, whatever. For the chaotic task, you just act. You don't think, you don't analyze, you act, but it's only a transitional stage. You don't want to be there. You don't manage that, you escape that by acting. And in the complex realm, you have to run multiple experiments at once. Let's deep dive the last 2 minutes into this complex realm, and what can you do? So if you want to set up teams that work like this, how can you do it? There is a framework which I use in a current project. I'm working with a client, an Austrian client. They produce big machines that work the earth, basically. And so these big machines, they had one competitor for their main product 5 years ago. And last year, they had 8 competitors for the same product. So they can bring you the same solution for the same price. That's a real problem, right? So this part is in chaos, and how will they regroup? So they have to change from producing a product to becoming a solution provider. It's a major change. And we came together and said, okay, how can we make it small? So let's not do one pilot for 12 months, investing 100,000 euro. Let's make it as small as possible. How can we make it small? So we took as many people as possible from the organization. We built some teams. I'm coaching these teams once a month. And they built hypotheses. They collect the data, they build hypotheses, and they think about first small experiments. And they try to start experiments right now. So we meet once a month for 1 day. We start discussing. And when the first idea comes up, how this hypothesis could be validated or invalidated, I say, okay, stop discussing right now. We take this experiment card that you see there. How can you test it? You have an idea for a solution. Okay, let's stop this discussion right now. How can you test it? So write it down. And they write it down there. So the person who says, I have an idea, gets not interrupted by the others who usually would say, we tried this 10 years ago, that won't work, it's too expensive. So I ask only one question, how can you make it small? How can you test it next week? And they write it on the experiment cards on the blue side, which is the doing side. And it says duration. It says duration. And it says currency and threshold. And the duration will be something between 2 weeks and 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, we will review. So we try to make it as small as possible, the smallest entity. And they just go and do it. So if it's 5 people, they have 5 experiments until the next meeting. And you see the difference to a normal meeting where you come together, you discuss, nothing happens, you discuss, nothing happens, you have coffee, and then you go home. That's the difference, right? So these people in between, they are really working. They're really doing stuff. And at the end, talking about risk management and the buzzer moment. So you start when you don't know, and you make multiple parallel experiments, and then some of them go in the next round. 4 weeks later, we kill some of them, pivoting in the new age language of the lean startup, and then some prototypes will go into the next round, and then you put more money in. So instead of starting with one project, 100,000, you start with 7 experiments of 100 euro each. And if they come to the next round, then you put in 15,000 and you make it bigger, but it's less, right? And then in the next round, you put in 50,000 and then 100K, and then you go into the million round. So only this one gets funded with millions and with, of course, with many people and maybe even a department if you need it. Usually you don't need a department to get work done. And you see how the risk is distributed evenly. So there is no risk here because you know that it works. You can put money there. You can put focus into that. You can say to people that this is priority number 1. So this is the way how you can have the overview. How many minutes do I have? 0. So, and this is the experiment card where you can say, whenever your people say, I have an idea, say, okay, let's stop discussing right now. Write it down. How can you test it? How can you make it small? Write it down on the blue side. Put it on the wall. Do it for 2 weeks. Then we see each other again. Then I will interrupt you. After 2 weeks of swimming, then I will interrupt you. And then we will talk about it. And if it's invalidated, okay, we go to the next one. And if it's validated, we will make it a little bigger. And this could be one way of navigating the digital ages maybe. If you want to know more, I have a daily blog where I talk about that, or you can find this and many other things on strategysprints.com. Thank you very much.